that their arguments hold any water or hold any weight with anyone that really looks at it critically.
Oh, and this was a 6-year mental journey for you. It's finally over now. How did that battle feel all those years until then?
It's been a fascinating journey, and I've learned a lot about Canadian law as well as medical cannabis. As it's something which is just being discovered by the world of science, the endocannabinoid system, and the function of cannabis, both that's produced within your bodies and that you can consume from the outside world, on our overall health. It's something that's very fascinating. I'm very happy to be involved with some of those discoveries. So that's been in the Cannabis Digest. We've been writing quarterly articles, as well as having the website updated almost daily with blogs that relate to the trial and other aspects of medical cannabis. It's great to be involved with this work.
How do you think this decision is going to, on a practical level, impact patients' ability to buy pot cookies, for example?
In a way, that this decision, it vindicates the need for these products, and since dispensaries are the only places where people can get these products, it kind of vindicates the dispensary service. So I think that's really where people can get it. They're not going to get it from licensed producers, as far as I can tell.
Do you think there'll be more sales of those kind of products now in these dispensaries? Is anything going to change as a practical matter?
I think people will feel more confident to explore alternative methods now that it's been affirmed by the highest court in the land. And also having the message get out to everybody through the media usually has that impact.
Well, when you mentioned your sister, was her illness what prompted you to get into this in the first place?
It was what's fueled all the way along this. And I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. If there's a way that a person or their family can avoid the kind of suffering that comes from having somebody you close to love die in front of you, lose their bodily functions, not be able to sleep and eat and talk to their family during those last months, I would like that option to be available and to be explored by people if they could benefit from it. So it's definitely fueled me.
I'm just wondering what you think of this whole dispensary system. Health Canada continues to say that dispensaries are illegal. In Vancouver, we're seeing a movement towards perhaps regulating them. Where would you like to see this go?
Well, certainly here in Victoria, they are moving towards regulating dispensaries as well, which we think is a wonderful thing. Patients need direct access to organizations that can provide them information about this plant. It's a very diverse plant, and not only in the types of products that can be made, but in the various strains that have different effects as well. For most patients that have literally no experience with this, there's a lot of information to take in. And dispensaries like ours give people an opportunity to ask questions, to talk with other patients about their experiences, to learn more about the products than they can from a web page and even a phone at times isn't nearly as beneficial for a lot of patients. So
How do you do that when Health Canada continues to say that dispensaries are illegal?
Well, it certainly is a risk. We're breaking a multitude of laws despite this ruling to provide these services. Although this ruling does temporarily provide us some protection, at least with the cannabis derivatives, not so much with the cannabis marijuana. But it is something where there is a great risk in doing this still, which is why we would want the government to eventually include dispensaries in the federal regulation or federal regulations. I hope that will eventually happen as a result of the city's licensing clubs, that there'll be a sort of chain reaction towards full licensing and regulation. That's obviously why we have stores. We're not hiding. We want to become part of the establishment, as it were. And so we're hoping for further changes in other levels of government that we've seen at the municipal level to occur. but it's unfolding, kind of slowly for some of us. But this case here, as Owen said, it really validates the need for dispensaries, because until such time as Health Canada creates regulations for the licensed producers to sell these products, there's what is called legally a lacuna, that a gap in the programs that these clubs are filling. And so I think this decision is going to dramatically increase the number of people that are accessing dispensaries, because it will both increase the awareness and the acceptance of cannabis, with the Supreme Court of Canada acknowledging a unanimous decision that patients should have the right to these, acknowledging a unanimous decision that cannabis has medical benefits that our federal government seems to be in denial of, despite their own evidence. I think are really important things. A lot of patients are really wary of coming to these dispensaries because of fear of the law, or even the stigma. There's thousands of government workers in Victoria that are working next door that won't come here because they don't want to be seen coming and going from an illegal organization. And the more often courts strike down the law and defend people in this matter, the less fear there will be, the less stigma there will be. And those are what's holding us back. If everybody that smoked cannabis right now in this country stood up and told their employers and everybody else who they were and what they did, the law would change overnight. It's fear that's holding us back, and this decision is going to take a lot of that away.
This decision doesn't apply to distribution or production, does it?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yes and no. In a way, this decision, in my opinion, again, I'm not a lawyer, but it's my understanding that as of today, the government will not be able to convict anyone of possession, trafficking, or production of a cannabis derivative in any amount until such time as there's a legal means by which for patients to purchase it, likely from a licensed producer. But until that lacuna has been fixed, and we've experienced this before, 2003, 2004 in the Hitzig decision, when patients couldn't buy it at all, despite there being a program for them to grow it, the court struck down the law and said patients should have access. And Mark Emery went on a summer legalization tour, smoked pot in front of a police station in every province of the country. And those charges all got thrown out because until there's a legal way for patients to buy cannabis, they couldn't convict anybody. We're seeing the same thing right now, where, and you can see with the matter of standing, it's very clear in this court decision that no one can be convicted of an unconstitutional law, whether that violation impacts them or not. And so right now, the trafficking laws are unconstitutional. The court has ruled that. They need fixed. Until the government fixed it, that constitutional violation exists. That's why the fact it's not suspended for a year is so important, because that puts pressure on the government today to make the changes. Not a year from now, but today. They're not going to be able to convict anybody anymore until they have a legal source for patients to buy these derivatives. At that point, then only patients and their licensed producers will be able to produce it, with the funny exception of the Allard injunction, which is another legal issue around the growing of cannabis, where patients at this point can still possess and grow for themselves or have a designated grower under the old MMAR. And so if the Allard injunction is still in full effect, even when licensed producers are given the green light to sell it, those designated growers will actually still be protected to produce cannabis derivatives. So it's a little complicated in that manner, but certainly, it is something where right now the government cannot convict anyone.
So you can, just to be clear, you can produce it, you can possess it, you can't sell it?
Yeah, you can traffic too, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Production, trafficking, and sale. They cannot convict anyone of any cannabis derivative.